Hi, it's Scott. ROCKFILE back with another podcast review. Going to talk about the 4K edition of the 1977 film, Sorcerer. Most people have never heard of this movie. Why? Because it opened the same day as Star Wars. In 1977, May, Star Wars opened, and on the other screens, Sorcerer. Lasted a week or two. Roy Scheider starred in it. It was directed by William Friedkin, who had already scored hits with The French Connection and The Exorcist. This was a different ball of wax. First of all, I don't think people got the title because Sorcerer doesn't really have anything to do with what goes on in the movie. It's a pretty dark and intense film and nothing like Star Wars or anything else that was out at the time. I think it holds up very well, although it's one of the biggest flops of that year. These days, well, the Criterion Collection just put it out on 4K. I have the original, I believe it was a Warner Brothers release in a digibook. That's been the version that I've watched for years, and that's a really good version of the movie. Plus, the book has some very interesting stuff in it. Now, this summer, Criterion Collection has released it, fully restored by and approved by the director of photography and the director. One of my favorite reviewers on Blu-Ray.com thought some color changes he didn't like. But as far as I'm concerned, if the original director of photography and the original director signs off on it, they're good with it, I'm good with it. You can talk about revisionist stuff all day long, from George Lucas to everybody else to Francis Ford Coppola or whatever. But the movie, as we bring these into modern times, they can scan them at 4K from the original film elements. They can get the colors right like they never were. I have watched some older movies recently where some of the people have said, the movie didn't look this good when we originally released it. We have the technology now. So there's a big scene with a truck trying to get across a bridge over a roaring river, and it skews a little bit greenish now. And a reviewer I really like on Blu-ray.com really took issues with that and gave the movie like 3 out of 5. I would give this movie a 4.5 out of 5. I think it looks fantastic. The colors in certain scenes do look a little different from my original Blu-ray, but again, if the director of photography and the director of the movie sign off, if they're both still alive and still sign off on it, I don't complain. The movie, it's just weird for its time. It starts with 4 different stories of people who are not very nice people. You get Roy Scheider and 3 other characters. One's a mobster, one's a terrorist, one's an embezzler. And they all come together. They all have a different reason for needing to pull this Hail Mary of a mission. This is a small foreign country. The oil companies are running things, and there's a lot of controversial stuff in here that at the time I think people missed that you could really get now, like the oil companies really taking over these countries and cities and things like that. But anyway, the oil companies need to put out, there's an oil well on fire, and they do it with dynamite. You have to explode it to get it out. And there is no way to get any explosive there any quicker than they've got these old explosives they found that are leaking nitroglycerin. Like the bottom of them are all wet because the nitroglycerin is seeped out of it, and any hard jostle will cause them to explode. And so you've got 4 desperate people driving 2 trucks through the jungle several hundred miles to take this cargo that could explode at any second to these oilmen. And this movie holds up. It didn't catch a lot of people because you don't really know anything about the characters or why they're getting together. And it's 4 completely different stories. You get these little mini movies at the beginning. This guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. And then they all kind of come together and in this country, and they have this job that they have to do. But nowadays we do things like that in movies. So I think Friedkin was actually way ahead of his time. I think Friedkin's a good director. I think he lost it at some point, as most directors do. He made some fair to partly cloudy, almost middling movies after this, and maybe 1 or 2 really, like Bug was really good. But this is up there with French Connection and The Exorcist. I think it's a fantastic movie. It's just tense because they have to pick 2 trucks and they have to fix them up, and this is all under a time limit. The entire movie is like on a timer. And trying to drive through rough jungle with a cargo. They've got them in sand, and they're taking every care, and they go really slow over bumpy stuff, and they get to a point where there's like a giant tree crossing the way, and they can't figure out, oh no, we're stuck now, and they have to figure out how to get that, or get across the river, get across the bridge. And there's some big set pieces in the film in years before we did kind of set pieces in movies. And it's intense, and who survives at the end and how it all goes down is not what you expect. Even, this is a 1977 film. You'd think you'd know how it's going to end by the way it starts. But no, it's a good screenplay. It's great cinematography. It's well directed. It's an intense film. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Like I said, none of the characters are really likable. And here they are on a mission where, you're almost hoping that, well, maybe one or two of them get blown up. But then the people that they're doing this for are worse than they are, if that makes any sense. So it's interesting, the interplay between the characters. Quentin Tarantino once said that Roy Scheider probably wasn't a big enough actor to carry this role, that it was up for somebody like Steve McQueen, and they passed on it. I think Roy Scheider did a great job, and that's the only way I've ever seen the movie. So I always, he's the guy that killed Jaws, and then he starred in this. When I was a kid, this was a big deal. But a lot of people never saw this movie for the competition it had, and it kind of languished on home video for a while. Nobody knows what to make of a movie called Sorcerer. They think it's going to have magic users and dragons in it. You can figure out what the title has to do with the rest of the film. It's based on The Wages of Fear, which is an old French movie, but they didn't really consider it a remake because that was a making of a book. And so to William Friedkin, this is not really a remake of the movie. This is a different telling of the story. And so he doesn't consider it a remake, and well, whether you do or not. They've changed so much in the two movies, it's really not the same as the original. But I think it's a classic. So I compared it to the Warner Brothers, my 4K, to the Warner Brothers Blu-ray. I think the Criterion knocks it out of the park. It looks better, sounds better. It's a brighter, more forceful soundtrack. The grain is handled better on the 4K. It just, and I've said this in many podcasts, why you really want to get into 4K is for bigger TVs. Blu-rays look fine on a 55, 65-inch TV, but when you get up to 85 inches and bigger, a Blu-ray just doesn't look like a 4K. It's a huge difference between the two. So if you really like this movie, go for the Criterion Collection. They've added an extra disc of all bonus features. There's a little booklet in there that doesn't repeat the stuff in the Digipack. I'm going to keep my Digipack, actually, because I like those Digibooks. But the new 4K from Criterion is fantastic. So July is ending this week, and that ends the Criterion Collection sale that was going on at Barnes & Noble and Amazon. You could get these movies at half price. When they do the half-price sale, Criterion will usually put new movies on sale, but their half price is half price off the MSRP. So if say a 4K from Criterion lists for $49, usually sells for $35. During the sale, you'll get it for $25, right? Does that make sense? Blu-rays are about $5 to $10 cheaper. Well, when this went on sale, when they added it to the sale at the beginning of the month, it popped up and it was $14.95. And several of my friends in these 4K groups posted, hey, it's $14.95, go jump on it. I'm like, $14? It's not the Blu-ray edition? This is the 4, really? And I double checked and I bought it. And then like within minutes, it was $25 again. So I kind of held my breath until it shipped, and I did get a copy for $14.95. You'll pay $24.95, but that's pretty much the going rate for what Criterion is. And that sale ends here July 30th, so it ended today or tomorrow. Anyway, Sorcerer gets a real high recommendation of a classic film that most people haven't seen. It's well directed, well acted. The cinematography's great. Oh, the music. Tangerine Dream did the music. In 1977, they hadn't done much with soundtracks, and it was a bold choice at the time, but it so works in the movie now. The electronic themes that they come up with and stuff, it works for this movie, and you wouldn't think it would. I thought the effects were great. These in 1977, if you wanted to blow something up, you literally had to blow it up. They really, practical effects were everything because special effects. We had no computer-generated special effects at the time, and it was really hard to do anything convincing through special effects. So if they needed to blow up a giant tree, they blew up a giant. They built the bridge. See, there's a massive rope bridge that they have to drive these two trucks across, and it's swaying back and forth in the wind and the rain. They built that bridge. It had hydraulic pumps on it and such. They went to great lengths to create that vision in the camera. not fix it later in special effects. You have to marvel at the work. They went to a foreign country and you were in the jungle with these dudes driving these 2 crappy trucks with a bunch of dynamite in the trunk. I mean, it's crazy intense. And again, the way it plays out and the way it ends, it's all kind of very satisfying, very well done, very intelligent. This is a great movie that just got lost because of the competition at the time. It opened the same day as Star Wars. Nobody was ever going to pay it attention. Little did we know at the time, because honestly, at the time, most people didn't expect Star Wars to be that big. It was going to be this little science fiction movie from 20th Century Fox, who occasionally put out a Planet of the Apes movie or whatever, and Star Wars destroyed the competition for a year. How many movies can you think of that came out in 1977 after May? Very few, because, well, every theater, they kept opening Star Wars in more theaters, and Sorcerer got shoved out of the way. Anyway, I think in retrospect, if they gave like Academy Awards for things later, that this movie would win some awards for cinematography or something. It's an intense tale of something you don't normally see. It's incredibly well done, well acted all the way around. A lot of surprises. Highest recommendation, the Criterion Collection of Sorcerer, 4K. Pick it up, get it. It blows the old Blu-ray away, and the extras are worth it. I enjoyed watching all the extras. William Friedkin's a character. Not always a likable character, but he's definitely a character, and he's directed some really great movies. Check out Sorcerer if you haven't. It's really great. I'm Scott. I'm ROCKFILE. More podcasts on the way. Please like, share. Subscribing is very important. And have a spectacular day.